What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Daily Groomer podcast. I'm your host, Alex Martin, and here we have a lifelong business owner. Andrew Fraser is the founder and owner of Doggy Zone. Since starting it right after high school, 18 years ago, yep, I'm going to age you a little bit, Andrew. He's built an award-winning Maryland dog training resort, offering clients boarding, training, daycare, grooming, transportation, and retail products for their dogs. His business has been listed as one of the fastest growing companies in the United States, and we have him here today to learn a little bit more about growing a pet care business. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Alex. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, man, you've got quite the story here. I mean, you've been at this for so long, and obviously the fruits of your labor have paid off with, being recognized nationwide. I mean, here I am sitting in Dallas, Texas, and I know who you guys are, and getting you guys on the podcast is an absolute pleasure. So I just want you to take us back to the beginning of this, though. I mean, so you left high school, if I read that right, and jumped right into pet care services. I mean, what the heck, man? Take me back to that time and why. Why'd you do that?
Yeah, so actually, while I was in high school, I was, I would say, far from what you would call a star student. And I was basically at a place where I was like, I think I might drop out of high school. This is not for me. And I had one teacher who said, hey, Andrew, there's a program where you can go to work during school and not have to take foreign languages. And I was like, well, that sounds right up my alley. So that's what I decided to do, and it ended up working out that I adopted a dog my freshman year of high school, and worked out. I got a job with Invisible Fence, just doing work on with dogs, but also working in their office during high school. And so that's kind of what kicked it off, really. There was not as big of a pet industry as we look at it today. It was definitely an industry that was starting to kind of come together then, but I thought, this could be something that I eventually spend more time on. And that turned into me deciding that I wanted to go to dog training school. I had been working for Invisible Fence. I had spent a little time working for a veterinary clinic as a vet tech assistant. And I met a dog trainer who said, yeah, there's a dog training school out in Columbus, Ohio. And I asked him, I was like, do you make decent money doing this? And he was like, yeah, I am making six figures a year, going to people's homes. And so that's kind of where it all started off. I had this dog in high school and I was having trouble with him, and it kind of led me into the pet industry and being able to graduate high school and dive right into learning more about dog training and starting my own business.
No, I mean, that's amazing. I love, so many of these successful business owners that we have on have started because they meet somebody who's doing well in the pet care space, and they're like, wait a second, I can do that. So it's really cool that you met a trainer that was doing six figures a year out, I would imagine, where you were living on the East Coast there. And, you went to dog training school. When you left dog training school, was it customary that you go start a dog training business, or I guess when you leave there, what was your original plan? Was it to go and start your own business?
I think that was definitely what I wanted to do. But I also didn't have any business knowledge or real expertise. I didn't go to college for it. It wasn't, the only experience I had was the fact that my dad was a business owner at one point during his life. And I got to, kind of sit in the shadows of that. But yeah, I think, for me, the part that I look at and say, yeah, that was the thing, that was the catalyst, was, being able to basically get out of high school and go and do what I wanted to do was really what I was about. Cause I didn't like just following the do the schoolwork thing. And so I knew I could get jobs working with dogs, and I could gradually figure out how to run the business. And that's basically what I did. It was just a side thing for me for the first year. I worked for Invisible Fence. I worked for PetSmart. I worked for a veterinary clinic. I got a lot of experience with other businesses, but also built great relationships with those businesses so that I was getting clients gradually through them. And it got to a certain point where my clients were all coming from other businesses, and I didn't really need to work there anymore. And I could 100% solely focus on growing the business and not working for somebody anymore.
No, I love that. And I mean, I love so much of what you did was a learn before I buy type of motto, right? It was, all right, I know I want to run my own business, but I'm confident that I'll figure out the business stuff after I figure out how to become an experienced and skilled trainer. And so it was, hey, let me go learn how to do this with other businesses. Let me build those relationships, make those mistakes as I learn. And then when I'm ready to go, I know that I'll have not only the skills, but I'll have the clientele to actually go make it out on my own. Was stepping away from all that scary, even though you had all the clientele then?
It was scary just because it was unknown to me. But I was really excited about it, and probably like excited to the point that I was like deceiving myself a little bit, because I don't think that I really knew what kind of a shift that was going to mean in my life. And I think it took actually several years after making that switch for me to really see what type of impact it would have on my life. So yeah, it was more exciting to me than scary. But there were definitely moments. Luckily, I was kind of young at the time and didn't have a ton of bills. I had a little bit of like safety around me because I was living at home when I first started. But being 18 and then saying, yeah, I need to rent a house so that I can like have dogs that I can take home and train. That's when it started to get like, okay, this is a little bit more scary, because I'm committing myself more financially to it. And I think that's where a lot of people tend to get held up in like the growth of their business. Is the financial piece can be really scary for a lot of people. And if you're not confident in it, it can really hold you back from making decisions that will actually really help you to grow and propel your business forwards. So yeah, I would say more excitement than fear, but it's pretty common for people to have a lot of fear in that area. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's probably good to have some there.
For sure. I mean, that's fear is the Band-Aid there for any, to prevent us from getting an injury, but it can also hold us back a little bit, right? And, looking at your numbers and understanding that, hey, this could be good for my business. This is what I want to do. Sometimes it's okay to kind of blast past that fear and get right into that excitement. So bring us up to speed. You went from, getting your own house / facility, right, for training dogs at home, to now running, a nationally recognized store that has not only just training, but it has grooming, it has bathing, it has boarding, it has daycare, everything, right? And so bring us up to speed. How did we go from 18-year-old taking a big chance on himself at, the corner house lot to a nationally recognized store?
Yeah, so I mentioned, renting a house, shortly after graduating from high school. I started taking boarding trains, where I would take the dog home with me for 2 weeks and do a training camp program with them. And I woke up one morning and I had like 15 or 20 dogs in my basement. I don't remember the exact number, but I was kind of like, yeah, this isn't really that desirable anymore. Like, I need some separation in my life. So I ended up buying a house when I was 21 that sat on 10 acres and had a separate building next to the house that I could keep the dogs in, and I could do my training with them, and I could even start to do a little bit of boarding with dogs. And I did that for about a year. And then we ended up finding ourselves in a position where we were growing more. And if we wanted to continue doing what we were doing, we were going to have to invest probably around 100 grand to do a special exception for zoning on the property. And I wasn't in the position to do that at the time. We were having success, but I wasn't ready to make those types of commitments. And we luckily were able to partner up with a veterinary hospital who had a basement that was basically empty. And we went and rented the basement from them for about 5 years. And that was great for about 4 of those 5 years, until basically they started offering dog training right above our heads. And we basically were in a position where we're like, okay, the person that we're renting from is competing against us now. And we rent from them and we're in their building. We got to get the heck out of here.
Yeah. You got
and
a fox in the hen house there.
Totally. And it was very challenging because, getting a space that you can board dogs, there's a lot of challenges around zoning that you really need to be able to tackle. And a lot of them are not fast. But we were luckily able to find a space. It was 30 miles south of where we were located, so significant distance for most of our clients. The rent was 6 times what we were spending, but I said, you know what? Like, sometimes if your dreams don't scare you, then they're not worth pursuing. And I'm just going to take a leap of faith. I've got a team of 5 people who are all deeply committed. And if we do this, I think it will work out. I had banks turning me down for loans to do it. I had people telling me, Andrew, like, this is kind of crazy and kind of scary and dangerous because it's such a huge commitment. Going from 2,000 square feet to 12,000 square feet is a big jump. But we did it, and we started off in that space, just offering boarding and daycare and training. After about 2 years or so, I guess we were doing a little bit of dog dating at that point too, but no professional, haircut, grooming, not really salon type of services, just kind of wash and dry, send them home clean for boarding type of work. And I told my team, I was like, we're never going to do dog grooming. I don't want to get into that because I don't have a ton of experience with it. And I don't want to get into something that I'm not really confident in. And that was my attitude for quite some time until we hired somebody who was a professional groomer that wanted to just work in our pet care department. And not too long after that, I was pretty impressed with her performance. And I said, I'll give you a shot. We'll give this grooming a try. And she ended up being instrumental in, us getting grooming going. So we added grooming to the business. Last year, we opened a full retail store. That was about a 5,000 square foot expansion to our existing space. And so we've definitely gone through a lot of evolution, to say the least. We have a retail store with do-it-yourself dog washes inside. We've got a professional salon in there. And, definitely a fun business.
No, I love that. I love hearing the evolution of all the locations. And if anything, that tells me that, no location is permanent. If you need to move because your business is running out of space or the finances aren't penciling out, then move. You did it so many times, and I'm sure it was a pain in the butt every single time, but you're here today and you've got a nationally recognized store, right? And I don't know if you could have got here without taking that chance every single time of moving to these, imperfect locations, let's call them, right? You knew at the time they weren't going to be a perfect spot. But, you took that chance and that shot anyways. Am I wrong, or did I read somewhere that your store is an old auto shop?
Yeah, the resort building was a transmission shop.
That's awesome. And
so,
what was that build out like to get it from, an old transmission shop to a, pet resort boutique type of feel?
Yeah. So, really, we had a great landlord who had cleaned the building up really well and had the building very well painted before we moved in, at least on the interior. They had to repair a lot of concrete, and, they invested quite a bit of money into the building, and I did not have much time. I was moving out of my other building. I had given notice. I needed to make this happen quickly. So I think we had about 90 days to actually get it all done. And, I had spent a lot of time at other industry events, and I've talked to lots of vendors, and I knew all of the perfect finishes and fixtures that I wanted in the building. And I kind of came to the conclusion that, like, it was more about function over fashion. and I just needed the space to work. And so we, made some decisions on our materials that allowed us to move at a faster pace. We used vinyl fencing in our daycare areas so that we weren't having to put up walls, which would have required, more permitting and more electrical.
Sure.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. The 90-day build out here to go from transmission shop to pet salon. I mean, truly anything's possible, man. It really comes down to, it doesn't sound like you're lowering your bar. It's just you're making decisions that a business owner needs to make. I'd love for it to be, walls and soundproof and all that stuff. But right now we have customers that are relying on us. We need to make decisions so that we have a space for them.
Yeah, we didn't have air conditioning when we moved into the building. Okay.
Oh
so, we got it within like 30 or 45 days of moving in, but, it was definitely what I would call bootstrapping.
I love it. I love it. That's what you have to be too when you start one of these businesses or even just move locations. You've got to be scrappy and you've got to be flexible and ready to roll with the punches. But the one thing you cannot fold on is letting your customers down. And it seems like you were able to maintain that high standard of service. Let's get into it a little bit because a lot of people that we have on or a lot of people that listen to our podcast don't have all the different services that you guys do. So I'm really curious, from an outsider, tell me what goes into offering all those services. And really, I think we want to know, is it worth it? Is it worth it to tack on, a retail shop to our grooming salon? Is it worth it to tack on daycare, boarding, that sort of stuff? So what goes into it? And, are one of the modules really crushing it where you're like, no, I would really consider offering that?
Yeah, I think that, it really comes down to what is your true vision for your business. We've been building Doggy Zone as kind of this place that's just all about dogs. And if you love dogs, then there's something that you're gonna enjoy with our company. With all of the different lines of business that we have, it is not a simple business structure. It is not something that I would recommend for even all people. I think that, the benefit that we had starting off was we were really good at dog training and we had that mastered. So when we came in, we already were really good at one thing and we were able to add these other things on, and it wasn't a huge hurdle to jump over. It wasn't a ton of new stuff to learn. And when we added things like grooming, we were able to kind of do it without having a ton of pressure on us. We were able to just kind of take our time and build it. I do think that having multiple departments or classes or business areas, however you want to define them, really provides a lot of stability to your business. Everybody experiences the seasonality that pet industry has. The services may have different seasonality, but blending those together really does help to give you stronger revenue throughout the year. There's certainly a big difference in margin between some of the services, but at the end of the day, having that blend just gives more stability. I like to say one of anything is dangerous. So if you have one service and that service is, dependent on, we'll say, a van to pick up and drop off, and you only have one van and something happens to that van, well, there goes your revenue for the day with that service. So that's something to just keep in mind. But I think that it is really good to niche down, get really good at one or two things, and then gradually add to that to provide stability.
I like that. The way I think about that is you have a main service that is your core tenant. It's how you get clients, what your clients know you by. But you have other pegs of the stool that offset the seasonality, maybe of that main service, or if anything were to happen. Maybe it's not one. Maybe you have 3 groomers and, one of them's out for the day or something like that. You're not going to feel that burden as much if you have diversified service offerings. And I love what you're saying about just having, you can niche down and have one as your core. That's what's going to bring your clients. That's what people are going to know you as. And you just offer the other ones as kind of a, maybe secondary to start. I'm curious, you mentioned there are different margins that come into running each of them. I don't know if you know them off the top of your head, but even if we were to just talk in ranges, give us an idea. Is there one of them that is, you know what, this is the best margins? We make the most and it costs us the least. And this is kind of the tightest margins. Maybe not the worst, but this is the tightest where we can't really have many errors in this department.
Yeah, so I think, we definitely see in our dog training and boarding that does tend to have some of the highest margin. On the flip side of that, retail is definitely one of our lowest margin things. But this year, I mean, just looking at how our business has just been affected by, the economy and things are just different this year than it has been for many years. I'm so thankful to have retail as an offering because it's actually grown for us quite significantly. In fact, we doubled the size of our retail department this year, and it's our second year. We've got services that are having a hard time keeping up with last year. So, you're thankful for certain things at certain times, but grooming also is lower margin for us. I believe that we could probably do some things to improve that, but we really kind of are trying to keep our grooming program pretty simple right now. We're trying to keep it simple and avoid it from getting complicated. I'm really good at complicating things. So that's a big focus for me and just my business right now is simplification. So
no, I love that. I love that. Talk to me a little bit about how these services play together. Is it oftentimes that you find someone comes in for boarding and they end up buying something in the retail shop and doing the self-wash station, or the other way around? Maybe they come in through grooming and they see that you guys have boarding and training as well, and they end up, purchasing those. Did the services cross-sell together well, or is it pretty independent, per customer?
So we have some clients that come to us and they just have the one thing that they come to us for. Grooming can be one of those things where they, have a very particular desire, and whether that's around the person who's cutting their dog's hair or the type of cut that they get when they bring their dog to us. So I would say with grooming, we see the most of that where they will kind of stay in that lane, and a little bit with training as well. But we do find that, for example, if somebody's coming in and boarding with us, they'll likely end up doing grooming with us. If they're doing training with us, it's likely that, they'll do daycare with us. So they do naturally cross promote pretty well. But we analyzed our database a while back, and we were shocked to see how many people there were that weren't utilizing all of the services. But at the end of the day, we don't expect that everybody's going to use everything. But our goal is to allow that person to not have to go to all the other places that they would typically have to go to get everything that they need in one spot. And that may only be, 2 or 3 things that they're looking to use.
100%, 100%. It's really interesting how cross-selling works, because all you're doing is you're basically selling your trust one time, but their average order value is increasing, right? Because instead of if you were to just offer dog training, you still have to have them trust you the same as if you were offering 5 different services. But if it's just dog training, you can only make what they're going to pay you for dog training, versus if you offer retail, you offer grooming, you offer boarding, you can make all of those other, the revenue from all those other services, but all you're doing is selling them, quote unquote, your trust that one time. So I think having, again, multiple service offerings, even if you just have one as your core, it only gets easier. You make more money per customer. And I think that's something that's really cool about your guys' business. And it is really this kind of like one-stop shop. Now you said you have a habit of overcomplicating things. With all of these different modules, I imagine and I hope that you guys have some sort of good management system set up. Walk us through what role technology plays in your guys' business. Do you guys have scheduling softwares? Do you have booking softwares? Talk to me about technology in your business today.
Yeah, we have a love-hate relationship with technology, like I think most people do. But I'll kind of give you the overlay here. So there's no perfect CRM that we've found. And I think that I've used a very large majority of them over the past 18 years. I know I've used at least 5 companies. And we finally have just, decided to stay where we are. But we have a CRM that runs all of our resort services. So that's our, our training, our daycare, our boarding, our grooming. And then we have a CRM that runs all of our retail store, our do-it-yourself dog wash, home delivery and pickup.
Okay, so let me pause you right there real quick.
Sure.
CRM is that customer relationship manager. It's a software that manages basically your customer interactions. If you don't mind, you said you had 2 different CRMs, one that kind of owns the retail side of your business and one that owns the training, the boarding, I believe you said. The other, it seems like the services side.
Correct.
Can you put some names behind those softwares, just so our audience can do some digging if they want to?
We're using Ginger for the resort side of our business, and we use Retail Pet for the retail side of our business.
Okay, so, roger that.
And we've been with Ginger for probably about 4 years. I think we switched to them in 2018.
Got it.
And we've decided to stay for the time.
Yeah. Oh, of course. And talk to me about, you guys have quite the operation here, and you've survived for almost 2 decades. You've obviously built something that's pretty resilient. So, and that I think is also recognized in your guys' award for one of the fastest growing companies. I would imagine there's a trend behind both here. There's a reason why not only you guys are resilient, but you guys are one of the fastest growing companies. Can you speak to us a little bit about what you might think that is? What makes you guys so resilient and also nationally recognized?
I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that we put a lot of emphasis on mindset in our company. To get to where we are, it's taken a lot of growth. And growth is something that's not just professional. In fact, I'd say it's more personal than professional. And over the years, I've gone from focusing on professional growth and becoming a better dog trainer to more personal growth. And as I've done that, I think that that's really started to become part of our culture and our organization. One of our core values as a company is to pursue growth and drive continuous improvement, which I frequently tell people when we're, recruiting to hire people into our company. We'll do a hiring event and we'll have 10 people in the room, and I'll tell them, if you're not growing, you're dying. You're going backwards because somebody else is learning and moving forwards. And so we've really tried to make growth, personal growth, a big part of our culture. And I think that that's what has allowed our team members to thrive. And when team members are thriving, the clients are going to get a better experience, and that's ultimately going to drive the organization forwards like it has for us. And it's allowed us to make very big decisions and not feel immense amount of fear around making those decisions, like taking over 5,000 square feet during the middle of COVID.
That's right, because growth is rewarded, and you can't grow without taking chances. And if that is part of your culture, or hey, we reward growth, and we understand that with growth, there's going to be some setbacks, but at the end of the day, we're in it for the long haul. So growth is positive, and I think again, it speaks to how resilient you guys have been through COVID, through 2008, and everything like that, right? I mean, you guys have been around for a long time now, and I think that's a core tenet of that. I really appreciate you sharing us with that. I mean, that is amazing. Lastly, as we kind of wrap up here, what's next for you guys? I mean, you guys have moved so many times. It seems like you keep growing this thing. It's a rocket ship. Is it, are you eyeing getting more locations together? Are you eyeing just more service offerings at your one location? Kind of what's kind of this next step that you guys are looking to take?
Yeah, I think we're pretty happy in our location that we have right now. I don't expect that location will get, too much bigger in size, or that will, ever move that location. It's really become a staple in that geographic area. For us, it's additional locations. We are right now, for the last 2.5 years, we've been under contract and working on developing a piece of property for a second location. So we have plans to build a 23,000 square foot second location, basically in the backyard of where we were located before we opened this one. We get back in the neighborhood where we had a lot of clients that we kind of felt like we had to leave, about 8 years ago. So that's kind of the next step for us. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just going to be a long process. So
Tell me why you guys decided to build versus buy.
well, so we bought the property. It was something that we had under contract so that we could get our special exceptions and our site plans and everything, approved through the county before we purchased the property. We've gotten through all of that. We closed on the property earlier this year, and we're just kind of in a planning phase right now, deciding how we want to phase the project and when we want to start. There's a lot of uncertainty in the economy right now, and so we're not rushing to do something right now today. But we're just kind of seeing how the chips fall right now, and my guess is we'll do something before 2025.
Amazing. And Andrew, we'll wrap things up there. Tell us if people wanted to get a hold of you to either ask questions or even just come visit one of you guys' facilities. What's the best place for people to learn about, what those are and where to get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, so you can certainly follow me or Doggy Zone on Facebook or Instagram. We're always posting pictures, and I like to. Sometimes I get inspired on a run and like to start sharing, my latest thoughts. But you can also check out our website, which is doggyzone.com, and see what we're doing there. And we definitely welcome tours of our facility. And I'd love to, especially with other professionals, I like to do those tours myself so I can get a chance to meet them and, hopefully be able to help you out as you progress forward.
Awesome. And where in Maryland are you guys at, Andrew?
We're in Rockville. So we're about 25 minutes outside of Washington, D.C.
Amazing. All right. So if you guys ever find yourself in Maryland, hit up Andrew. If you can't figure out how to get a hold of Andrew, you guys can reach out to me. You guys know how to do that. Andrew, we really, really appreciate you coming on today and sharing all this valuable information on how you've built Doggy Zone to be one of the fastest growing companies in the nation. Thank you. We wish you the best of luck with the newest facility. And that's the pod, guys.